Alright, so one of the really awesome things about the furry fandom is just how large it is. You can find furries literally everywhere, and the diversity of where everyone is from and what everyone does really makes the population of the fandom truly dynamic. Which also means that because there are so many people in the fandom, it's super easy to find people to talk to and make friends with, right? Well, not exactly. You see, one of the more difficult parts about being a furry is actually finding potential friends. And weirdly enough, the larger this fandom gets, the harder it also gets to find people that you can talk to on a regular basis. Which leaves a lot of furries, especially newer ones, wondering, how do I find people in this fandom to make friends with? Well, while I might not have the perfect blueprint on how to make a bunch of friends in the fandom, I do have a strategy that you could use to help finding friends in this fandom a whole lot easier. So let's look into why it can be so difficult to find friends in this fandom and what you can do to make that process of finding other furries to hang out with just a little bit easier. Okay, so let's start by giving a little context and going over the dynamics of the furry fandom from a high level. The furry fandom can be described in many ways, but at the end of the day, it's just a collection of people all interested in the same idea: anthropomorphic animals. And while everyone has a different level of interest in that idea and expresses it in different ways, that one thing is what ties everyone in the fandom together. And I think that's awesome. The fact that the idea of furry is essentially up for interpretation makes the fandom so diverse, with everyone bringing their own understandings of the idea into the community. But the other side of that is that there's really nothing else that truly ties everyone into the fandom together. It's anthropomorphic animals and that's it. This is why it can end up being so hard to find other people in this fandom to simply talk to, let alone make friends with. The way that we as people tend to make other friends is by bonding over interests that we share. And in most cases, it's more than one interest that turns people from just acquaintances to people that we talk to on a regular basis. This is why it can be so frustrating to find friends as a furry. This fandom is so big and all-encompassing, it can be hard to actually find and pick out individual people that share a similar set of interests as you do. There's just too many furries out there to even know where to start. This can end up making the warm and inviting furry fandom incredibly isolating. Even though anthropomorphic animals is what brings furries into the fandom, what keeps them there is the people that they meet and talk to while they're there. That's honestly the main point of being a furry in the first place, and for many people, their main or only group of people that they communicate with is within the fandom. And if you don't have a group for yourself, the reason to stay in the furry fandom starts to drop off considerably. So it's no surprise that finding people to talk to in this fandom is important, but with a community so large and dynamic, how do you do that? Well, this is the strategy that has worked for me personally, and I've seen work with many other furries throughout the fandom. And it's all about finding what I like to call your mini-fandoms. I was going to call it finding your micro-fandoms, but that could imply something totally different in this context, even though it ironically proves my point, but anyways. Okay, finding your mini-fandoms, got it. What exactly is a mini-fandom? A mini-fandom is what I like to call the smaller fandoms that are a part of the overall larger furry fandom. These are groups of people in the fandom that are all interested in a topic other than just anthropomorphic animals, and because of that, they are much smaller and much more manageable than the entire furry fandom. In this case, what gathers these people together is some other idea or topic that the group is all interested in. Being a furry is basically implied. And because not everyone in the fandom is interested in the same exact set of topics, the size of these groups can be a lot smaller and easier to find people that share a similar interest. Or in this case, two now, since being a furry has already been established as a shared experience. In other words, when finding your mini-fandom, what you're doing is breaking off a small piece of the furry fandom and using that to find people to hang out with. A much better strategy than trying to tackle the entire fandom with the hope that you get lucky and find your next forever friend. And the best thing about this strategy goes back to one of the strengths of this fandom. Because there's such a variety of people in this community, finding people who share a similar interest as you do won't be all that difficult. The mini-fandoms in the furry community come in all shapes and sizes. You can pick any hobby or interest that you enjoy, and there's most likely a mini-fandom for it. I've seen ones that are super popular, like furries that are into cars or aviation, and I've also seen some that are super specific, like furries that like the color purple, or fursonas with the name Riley. Yes, that last one is real. Apparently there's a group chat out there with all the furries named Riley in the fandom. I don't know what they're doing in there, but it's at least out there. But the main point of these mini fandoms is to bring different sections of the furry fandom together in a central place to talk and hang out. Most of them have their own Discord or Telegram groups that are easy to find with a quick search online, and many of the larger ones will have their own meetups at places like conventions. These groups allow you to still hang out with furries and be an active member of the fandom, but just in a smaller, much more manageable group, a place where you can focus your time and energy in trying to find people to talk to. And you don't have to pick just one. You can find and join as many as you can handle, but they'll all be doing the same thing, giving you something other than furry to start a conversation with and hopefully lead to finding a couple of friends in this community. You still have to put in the work of reaching out and talking to other people and finding more about them as a person to truly go from an acquaintance to a true friend. But what this strategy of finding mini fandoms does is give you a place to start, which can be the hardest part of finding people to talk to in this fandom. It allows you to view the furry fandom completely differently. Instead of this large, amorphous collection of random individuals, you can now look at it as a collection of mini communities that all share the underlying interest in anthropomorphic animals, allowing you to find people who are similar to you a lot faster and more efficiently. And once you find your mini fandom, you now have a group of people to hang out with online and potentially in person, and really enjoy what makes this fandom so special. Because at the end of the day, that's truly what the furry fandom offers its members, a place to find those communities that you truly belong to. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one, but until then, stay wild out there. Peace.